Hey everyone, welcome back. We're talking movies today. Once again, the lovely and talented Val Cameron from What to See with Val
Hey.
is back, and we're going to talk about two movies today because we are both in the midst of desperately trying to circulate or complete our Utah Film Critics Association nominations so that we can turn them in on time before we vote on Saturday. Two movies that are going to be on a lot of people's lists, and we'll decide probably by the end of this whether they're on ours. We're going to talk about tonight. The first one, this is the easy one. This is Will Smith's first movie since.
Yeah.
So, Emancipation. We get another Civil War slavery movie. This one directed by Antoine Fuqua, who stupid talented director, whom we all know and love. Will Smith, Ben Foster plays our villain. Not that there
Oh my
aren't
gosh, he is such a good villain.
not that there's not a lot of villains in this movie,
I think the
but
movie itself is a villain.
it kind of is a movie. It is based on a real person, a Haitian slave who escaped, trekked through the swamps of the South to join the Union Army and fight to liberate his family after Lincoln had issued the Emancipation Proclamation. 12 Years a Slave was good. Ben Foster is a great villain.
This is the thing about this movie is that I think that there are a few things working against it and there are a few things working for it. I'm going to go with the obvious thing working against it is that I think because of what happened at the Academy Awards last year with Will Smith, I don't know that many people are going to give him a chance this quickly after that situation to jump back up on that stage.
Well, he can't. He literally can't.
Yeah, he literally can't. So I don't see a nomination happening from a lot of people because of that situation. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that he didn't do a good job. I think the movie itself didn't do a fantastic job telling the story through the script, if I can say.
Right.
Visually, I think this movie is fantastic.
Visually, let's talk about that. It's basically black and white.
Yes.
Some people say
there are certain moments in the movie where there is color. It changes between black and white and different colors when different things are happening in the movie, but it doesn't ever go to all color. And it tells a story visually that is way more appealing than the script is appealing.
Yeah, I call them little flourishes of color because it's not like the whole frame colored. But most of those colors tend to be in the red spectrum.
Yes.
That he does give us. And it's always, it's blood. It's rage in Will Smith's face, which I found really kind of neat. And fire. But none of them are super red. There are no bright. Even when there's color, they're all muted.
Yeah.
So there are these little muted flourishes.
Yeah, it definitely they play with your eyes visually in this movie a lot. And there's a lot of emotion in the visuals in this movie. And so I really think it's going to be on my list for cinematography. It's in my top 5 for cinematography. I also think they did a really great job with the score in this movie. So I think visually and sound wise, this movie was actually really good. But where I think they lost me a little bit is the actual storytelling with the script isn't as strong as I would have liked it to be, because the story itself is a very compelling story. But
I want to differentiate between the story and the character upon which it's based. The character upon which it's based is terribly compelling. That is a good, but the way, you're right. The way that the script puts it all together and presents it to us is a little off. I have Ben Foster in my probable list of supporting actors, because he's such a good villain. And he's completely villainous in this, and yet you almost like him most of the way through the film. And then you almost feel sad for him when he tells the story about when he was a kid, which I think is just one of the greatest scenes ever put.
I have no compassion for this person.
Well, I think that scene where he talks about when he was a kid, I think that's one of the great scenes that we've seen this year.
It is a great scene, but in no fashion, at no time during this movie do I feel compassion for this person. I feel compassion for the instances that small children were put in during this time that made them grow up believing and thinking the way they did. So the situations that small children were put in, and he was once a small child.
Yes.
And they have this scene in which Will Smith's character he's trying to get away. He comes up on this house and he just wants to get water, and then he wants to get, past this house, and there's this family eating on the front porch, and you think he's going to get away, you think he's going to make it, and you see this small little innocent looking girl see him, and you think she is just going to let him get away, and she doesn't. Nope. She tattles on him. She gets up, she rings the bell, she yells runner, and that's such a telling moment. That moment, along with his story that he tells about his was it his, not his nanny, or
it was like his nanny housekeeper, kind of. Well, and it also goes back to the kid. You're right. The kids are really the way they're raised, but they're also, up to a certain point, they're raised in a very conflicted way until, like in Ben Foster's story, one event happens and then they're kind of slapped with the reality of the world.
Yeah, it's very confusing to tell a kid, we're going to leave you in the care of this person. And usually would only leave your children in the care of a person that you really trust.
Right. And that's very confusing for a child.
And then kids will develop relationships with whoever's spending the most time with them. And in this day and age, it was whoever their housekeeper was, which was usually a Black person. And then they've developed this relationship. He wants her to come and sit at dinner because she's like the person he spends most of the time with. And his dad's like, and then what? And I thought that right there, like those phrases, and then what? It makes the audience think so much about it. So there are nuggets of really great pieces that make you have these aha moments and make you start these conversations, because that, and then what? And then what? And then what? Really it made me have this moment like,
no, it is. Yeah. And
you hear that. It took the breath out of me. And then what he says next and what his dad does. Mm-hmm. Just, so to me, I'm a little conflicted with the movie, because there are some moments that are just so vivid, so telling, the right conversations, the right things that we need to hear and see and be told. And then there's just some pacing problems with some things that we didn't need to spend time on. But I feel like that was every movie I watched this year.
There were pacing problems. Yeah. This is just a hair over 2 hours. It's 2:12.
Yeah.
The best part of this movie is after he reaches Baton Rouge and he joins the army. And I think there's I talk about Ben Foster's scene. There's a scene with the Union general where he's confronted about what he's willing to do to help the Union Army. And what's hilarious, I use that word. What's hilarious is that the Union general, who's theoretically there to enforce, what is, effectively the end of slavery, asks a lot of the questions and makes a lot of the same remarks that certain people make today.
Yeah.
And again, it's just, there are these beautiful little scenes that mean a lot in a movie that just can't really get around to telling them right. And that's the bad part of this. And then everything else, I think the problem is that we've also seen this movie a lot. And it's not that it's not worth that this, slavery isn't a thing that we should be, reminded of and talk about. But from a narrative sense, there has to be something new. And I just feel like we've seen so much of this, except for, those little personal punctuations. Ben Foster, the general, even the end, after the fighting is done, that denouement where he goes back to find his family, it's like, exactly how it's going to turn out because it's Hollywood. And it's just like, I didn't need that. Let's just, you could have ended it, but no, they wanted that scene. And it's just like, why? That bothers me so much. I had a lot of the same problems with the Woman King, where I felt like Hollywood put its little Hollywood fingers in there and did too much Hollywood crap instead of letting the story do what it is perfectly capable of doing at a high level. And then they just Hollywooded it down.
Yeah, there was a lot of
and it's
things,
just like, why?
Yeah, I really loved about the Woman King, but it is a very Hollywood story where I think as Till was a really good.
Till's fabulous.
I think Till, to me, was one of those stories that it was told in a way I was so afraid it was going to be another Harriet, from the Harriet Tubman, because again, that was a beautiful movie to watch it, but it was very polished, it was very Hollywood. And for me, I don't think that we've seen enough of these stories. I'm on the opposite side that you're on. We've got a lot of baseball movies out there, and we're going to get more baseball movies. We have a lot of rom-coms out there that have the same exact, storyline and characters, and we get a lot of those. And I think this is just very different from what we usually get a lot of. It seems more of it lately. And I will be excited when a story like this is something that doesn't stick out like, okay, this is the slave story we have this year. I hope we get so many movies about slavery, about colonization, about these topics that we don't notice that we have a slave movie this year. Do you know what I mean? I think we're not getting enough.
I think we actually agree on this. I'm not saying that we don't need movies. It's you mentioned, baseball movies and rom-coms. Those are just frames to hang the story on. And the problem is that there's not enough story in this movie for what it's hanging it on.
Yeah. I think that there was enough story, but they were telling. Sometimes when you have such a big story like this, it's hard to decide what side of this story you're going to tell.
Right.
And I had the same issue with the Fabelmans, and I know we're not talking about this on this episode, but
we'll save that for when you do yours. You can highlight real quick.
But what I feel like in the Fabelmans is that there's a lot of that story that has already been told, and I would have liked what comes after that story is a little more compelling to me. What comes next?
Right.
And with this story, there was a lot of important things that happened on how he got to where he got to, but then there's that picture of him and how that picture of him got around the world and where it went after that and what happened to the reactions. I want to know that. I want to see what happened to him after that and what minds, if any, did it change. And there's this whole nother story, and it doesn't, again, I don't think this movie was a bad movie. I just felt like they could have spent more time in a different direction.
Yeah.
I do think that Will Smith did a good job with what he was given. He disappeared into that role and he needed to.
Yeah.
And he did. I did not see Will Smith. I saw this character in this world, and there were parts that devastated me. There were parts that I thought, wow, I had to remind myself that, and I'm saying that knowing that I actually enjoy Will Smith as an actor.
Right.
But I'm really sad that he couldn't be nominated for this role, because I do think that this role was really good for him. The movie was fine.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad. Like I said, I think they spent the movie didn't really. I mean, the front, it was too front heavy. We needed the battle and the post.
Yes.
That was the problem. There was way too much swamp time. It's like it wasn't a story about a guy getting through a swamp.
Yes.
I mean, that was almost
we got it.
incidental.
Like
Yeah,
we got that it's
exactly.
you're deep in the South. Like they started the movie off with this fantastic like roll through of how deep they just went deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in the South. And I'm like, we are in the deep South. And you know, my husband Dave said, well, yeah, this is where, and I'm like, no, that was what that scene was, what that camera work was to tell you how deep you are. And it made us feel that way right away. And then it kept doing it and it kept doing it and it kept doing it. And I'm like, I'm there, man. Give me some more story. There's more.
Yeah, I know, right?
More story here. It's beautiful.
Yep.
I give you that. It's beautiful. It's breathtaking. It is visually, you got it. But now I need some more. I need some more. Give me some more story. Give me the meat.
Yep. So
I feel like the story was a little, it was like Will Smith light, you know, like I need the full version, not the light version.
Right. So, okay. So Emancipation, good, not great. Some good bits. Just needed to, which that's sad. Like I said, it's going to get some play come award season. We'll see how that goes. But no, it's worth seeing. But
yes,
12 Years a Slave is still better. Let's talk about let's talk about the marathon movie. One of two marathon movies that you haven't seen the other one yet. This is the shorter of the two, just so you feel better.
Oh my gosh!
By 4 minutes, clocking it at a brisk 3 hours and 8 minutes.
This is the thing. I don't mind 3-hour movies if that 3-hour movie doesn't feel like a 3-hour movie.
As long as it's 3 hours well spent, yes.
And this movie, I'm so torn. I am so torn about this movie because, and I was told by a few people, like, don't even waste your time to watch it. Like, it's a waste. I don't think it was a waste. I think there were wasteful moments. I could go through that and snippety snip, 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 and make it a tight movie that meant something. But I think that the director and the screenwriter got carried away. Like nobody was there.
Considering it's the same.
Yeah. Like
Damien
nobody
Chazelle.
was there. Nobody was there to say, hey.
Yes. Babylon feels like it ran as long as Babylon was an actual city. Yeah, this movie, it's a full hour too long.
Oh,
It is a full hour too long. And half that hour is the first 31 minutes before you get to the title card.
Yeah.
That opening sequence is just insanely it's not unnecessary, but it is just broadly overlong and gratuitous.
It's called Babylon. And if you know anything about Babylon and the whole idea, it's indulgence.
It is.
And this director, this filmmaker put all of the indulgence and the unnecessary nonsense in this movie to prove a point, to the point where you're almost like, oh, like, do I want to keep going? But if you took out some of that indulgence and some of that nonsense, you would see that this is one of Margot Robbie's best roles ever as Margot Robbie, but you almost don't want to believe it because of everything else that's in this movie.
Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie,
the main actor, who I slaughter his name every time I say it.
And what's hilarious is they don't even have it on IMDb.
I have it. He is on the long list for
there we go, all cast
actors,
right?
And he does a fantastic job.
Diego Calva.
Yeah, Diego Calva. Is it Calva?
Calva, Calva.
Yes,
Diego Calva. So but Olivia Wilde is in it for 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Samara Weaving is in it briefly, and when I almost, like most people, will think that Margot Robbie was playing two roles, because it's Samara Weaving. Tobey Maguire shows up in another completely unnecessary subplot that could be cut and or greatly shortened.
Yeah.
Eric Roberts, which I thought was actually really awesome. There's just a ton. I mean, throw a name, that person is probably in this. I would like to point out, in my humble opinion, This entire movie is summed up in Gene Smart's 2-minute talk with Brad Pitt
Yeah.
near the end of the film. That's the entire movie.
Yeah.
And that's some of the best 2 minutes. Again, we just talked about Ben Foster and his little story ran a little longer than 2 minutes. This might be the best 2 minutes of this movie, where everything is crystallized and explained, and without passion, without prejudice. She just lays it out.
Yeah.
And you see Brad Pitt get it.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, that's the movie, but it's wrapped up. If you blinked or didn't pause and you took a bathroom break and you missed that, you've missed a huge part of this movie.
Yeah. And I love talking about this specific subject. The subject of this movie is how the film world was made, how it was developed. And they say right now they say the golden age of Hollywood, and you think of, the 50s, the 40s and the 50s, but it really happened in the 20s and the 30s. And I love talking to people about this because a lot of people don't understand that the first filmmakers, the first directors of film were women. Before big studios got a hold of filmmaking and put everything on a lot, it was women making film, women directors, women leading roles, women, writers, all this stuff. And then real Hollywood came in and everything changed. And so it shows that change from just this wild west of filmmaking, literally wild west filmmaking, which was visually just so cool to see all of this chaos, and then how it was brought over to the studios, and then how things changed, but not necessarily better, and how things actually got worse in the culture than it was before. It wasn't good to begin with. But at least everybody knew what they were getting into. You were walking on set, you saw the drugs, you saw the sex, you saw the debauchery, you knew what you were getting into. There was no secret couch anywhere. There was no secret whatever that you thought, oh, it's all legit now because there's people in a studio somewhere, and then you walk in and realize, you're screwed, literally. But showing that and then bringing it into, the world where now Diego's character is no longer in film anymore. And it's changed even more at that point. I love that subject. And I thought there was such a good story in the midst of this ball of craziness. There's this little nugget center that is so good and delicious, but getting there is so difficult.
Yeah, it really is. Like I said, it's too long. It's Hollywood doing. I mean, let's not forget he gave us La La Land.
Yeah,
which is Hollywood on Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I'm almost tired of Hollywood on Hollywood.
Yeah.
I didn't really care for She Said, because it was Hollywood on the media that they manipulated and used and conspired with in a lot of ways. But now look what it's like. It's self-aggrandizing. I mean, Chazelle is showing a lot of the dark side, or the industry of the film industry, if you will. But it's too much. It's too long. And he's still in the end almost saying, but look how great it is. And in the end, he still can't even say, yeah, and it still sucks. There's so much conflict to what the movie is actually saying. And is Hollywood really qualified to comment on Hollywood? I don't, it's like, yes, we checked our books and everything's fine. It's like, oh, well, you checked your own books. Oh, it must be good. And that's kind of what I feel like movies like this are doing. They're presenting their version like, no, they're honest, for real and for true. This is the way it is. So I mean,
it's not a documentary.
No. But it's still trying to glamorize itself while simultaneously kind of pretending to run itself down. And so maybe because it's so long, maybe that it bothered me more. If it had been shorter and tighter, it might have made more sense if it had just been about the industry. But then you get to the end scene where he's in the theater and he's watching Singing in the Rain, which is effectively the story of this movie.
Yeah.
thematically anyway. It's like you could have kept that entire scene the same, and that is, kind of that's the dramatization of what Gene Smart explains to Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
And that kind of works. So, narratively, you still get your point across. You still kind of get to have it both ways, but you're not just bombarding the audience with stuff that it doesn't need and doesn't really work and can actually detract, I think, from that message. That's me.
Yeah.
So it's not as bad. I called it like it's an overlong, overstuffed mess that still isn't as bad as some people want it to be.
Yeah,
Some people want this to be
really, they want it to be a
it's
stinker, and I don't think it was a stinker. I am conflicted because you could cut this movie down to just under 2 hours, and it would be a contender. Like, it would really be a contender. And so that's why I'm conflicted, because I actually think the performances were great. I think that the cinematography was great. The pacing, other than the fluff that was in between, like if you were to cut out like how it moved forward, but then it would just move to somewhere that we didn't. Well, why are you going there? Like, I don't understand why you went down that dark hole. That's
every time Brad Pitt gets married.
That's a whole different movie, Well, and that's the thing is, like, we understand that he got married a bunch of times, and you could cut a lot of that out. Like you said, as much as I like to see Tobey Maguire on the big screen, none of that was needed.
No.
None of it was needed. You could have gotten the whole thing out of what came in the end there without having any of that. It was kind of like, well, hey, a couple of our friends have some time off, so let's put Tobey Maguire in this. Let's put, so-and-so in this, and there they are. When it's detracting, like you said, from the stories, the other stories that are in there that are so compelling, like Brad Pitt's friend,
George.
Like, the side story of George is just so sad, but like everyone can relate to it, and then the sadness that comes with it. Like, cut out the hour about his wives and cut out the half hour, with freaking Spider-Man, and let's focus on these other tragedies that led to the demise of Brad Pitt's character. You know what I mean? And so I'm so conflicted, because I don't want people not to see this movie, but I also don't want people to give money so that we get another 3-hour movie about.
Wait for this one to show up on streaming, please. Do not give this box office money. There's a scene that didn't happen that I actually wanted to have happen, and it's after Brad Pitt talks to Gene Smart, and he gets the call for that job, that not last role, but that one role where he tells his friend, just tell me it's a piece of crap, and I'm bailing you out. Just, be honest with me. Tell me, yeah, it's a piece of crap, and I'm bailing you out. You're bailing me out. Fine. And he goes and does it. And they're on the coast looking out at the ocean, and they're doing the scene, and the director comes in and gives the lead notes, and he looks at Brad. He goes, "You ready to go again?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go again." But that whole scene, what I really wanted them to do was cut away and then show us that scene where all the direction that the lead got, Brad Pitt pours into his like 4-word line.
Yeah.
Because that would have been I would have loved to have seen Brad Pitt just chew like those 4 or 5 words with all of that emotion behind it.
Yeah.
And I would have been like, oh my God, that might have been worth a nomination by itself.
Yeah.
But I was just like, oh, and he didn't actually go there. It's like, God, that would have been such a beautiful Hollywood thing. But they just, they had him was completely broken at that point. And it's just like, he could have had that one gasp of reality. And he would have had, I was just like, oh, that's so sad. That would have been such a great scene to see.
Yeah.
But we didn't get it. But no, it's I hate to say, don't spend your money on this one, because then they're just gonna be like, oh, so 3-hour movies.
Watch
that's
it
great.
at home. Definitely watch it at home. Understand that every type of debauchery and rated R thing happens in this movie.
I'm shocked that it's R. It's almost NC-17.
No, because the 2 NC-17 movies that I saw this year were definitely, like, I can tell the difference.
Blonde, was NC-17.
Yeah.
What was the other one?
It was a horror film. I can't remember. There's so many.
I know.
So many movies.
Yeah.
I'm almost broken.
You're
My
almost
brain. I need to, like, at the end of the year, we just need to be able to dump. Like,
You know what you need to do? You know what you need to do when you need a break, like Thursday, while you're waiting to decide who you're going to vote for. Just watch Marcel the Shell again,
I know, I love that movie so
and
much.
then you'll feel better.
I
Marcel will
don't
make
feel
you.
bad. I'm really, like, thankful that both you and I get to finally do this together. You know, be a part of this association and everything. And so, but it's just, I don't have that much space in my brain
No.
to carry all the movies I have to remember, plus, like, remembering everyday life things. So I'm really
Yeah.
happy that
Just
I have a husband that's like, you don't remember all of these logical things, like where your wedding ring is.
you almost got so much. Well, look. Let's be clear. The Neon Studios sent us this to remind us how many movies we had to watch.
Yeah.
Amazon and Netflix sent us all of these. A24 sent 4 more today, and that's just to remind us of what we saw and or what we missed, or to give us a chance to see what we missed. And that doesn't count what's in our email. So
Oh yeah, like every time I open my email.
I know there's another one, and yeah, like the smaller labels that somehow don't get lumped into those. And I say smaller labels, and it's Searchlight doesn't wind up on physical disc. You get them rolling through. You get them rolling through your email. So yeah, it's a lot. So not only do we have to remember what we watched in February and March, but then we're like, did I watch this? Oh God, I didn't. And oh God, I didn't watch this many movies. And now I have to try to do that while we're watching movies that are still coming out. So it's you did this last year. I got in the association this year. This will be my first time. I will probably be fairly quiet at the arguments on Saturday. And I say arguments, that'll be the discussion. I think there'll be a discussion before we vote.
I was fairly quiet last year. There were a few that I stepped forward on, and one of them was the editing category, the cinematography and editing category for the Steven Spielberg movie last year. That's where my brain is at. West Side Story. I had a little argument for West Side Story for cinematography last year because I did think the cinematography was pretty spectacular. But yeah, I'm usually pretty quiet unless, like, I think that something is really. Last year was my first year, so when I say usually, I meant that one time.
Right. That's how it works. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
But I'm just excited to have you there.
And well, you know how hard it is for me to actually be quiet. So we'll see how quiet I actually am.
You and I both have an issue with being quiet, but I was pretty quiet in that room, so I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, you'll probably know if I'm about to throw a hand grenade if I go, well, that's probably going to be your keyword to duck. Because I'm probably going to be like, well,
we're sitting in a room with a whole bunch of people that did the same thing that we did this year and that love film just as much as that we do. And it's so cool to be there. It's not something that I expected, but it's really fun conversations with other people that are very passionate about movies. So it's fun. And plus we get snacks.
Oh, we get snacks? Bonus.
We get snacks.
Bonus. I like snacks. Okay. Well, okay. So we talked about Emancipation. Good, but not great. Ben Foster, awesome. Babylon, nice nugget of stuff. A lot of stuff we didn't need. Watch it at home.
I feel like, just to get in the season, is that it's like the box of chocolates that you get for Christmas.
The Whitman sampler.
And they don't give you what's inside each one. And so you have to test each one, but there's really only one that ends up being the one that you want to eat all of it.
Right.
That's that movie.
Yeah.
Is there's so much goodness to see, but then you're like, but I don't like what's in there. I don't like what's in there. I don't like what's in there. I really like what's in there. Can I have more of that one?
And no, there's two of those in the entire box. There's two of those in the box, and that's all you get. So, Val, where can people listen and watch and read all of your stuff?
What to See with Val is the website, which is being overhauled a little bit right now, but you can get everything, I believe, from March on, but all the newer stuff is going to be uploaded soon. You can also find me What See with Val on Instagram and Facebook, and then I am Val Cameron everywhere. And I will also be on Good Things Utah this Friday morning talking about Avatar.
Which we'll do another day. Actually, Ryan and I already did that. I have to post that tomorrow when Margot drops.
I haven't seen it yet, so
yeah, I know you're seeing it tomorrow night. We'll see.
Yeah.
So don't read and listen to our stuff till before. So no, tomorrow night I'll be playing catch up for nominations. So that's what we'll be doing. So, but yes. So thanks for coming on, Val. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You can listen, read, watch, post, like, share the Visually Stunning Movie Podcast at VS Movie Podcast, most places, Visually Stunning Movie Podcast, every place else. And we will be back soon with more movies because we still have more movies. But hopefully there'll be 2-3 weeks around New Year where they won't be releasing anything.
And then we get 2 weeks until Sundance.
And then, yes, we do have 2 weeks till Sundance. So hang on after. I need to talk to you about that when we're done.
Okay.
So thanks everyone for joining us. Until we talk to you again and we have her back. Hi, Mark. That's Val. Bye, Val.
Bye.
And we will talk to everyone later.